Hello, great people. These are not the best of times for President Bola Tinubu, as the U.S. District Court in Colombia has ordered the U.S. security agencies, including the FBI, the CIA, and the DEA, that is the Drug Enforcement Administration, to release all relevant records pertaining to Bola Tinubu's alleged drug dealing in the United States. The judge handling the case, Justice Beryl Howell, gave the ruling that every record, anything that pertains to Bola Tinubu's drug dealing, should be released to the public. You will recall that the case of Bola Tinubu's involvement in narcotics dealings has been a subject of controversy, so much so that the treaty speak during the 2023 presidential election, and now it has resurfaced again, and the US has given a ruling that will either make or mar President Bola Tinubu. What I can tell you is that if you are the type that don't like long reading, or if you read something that is long, you may not be able to make too much sense out of it because you are not of a related field. Well, as they say in street parlance, I got you. So this is one video that you should not miss for anything, because apart from the details of what transpired in court and the ruling, we would also be diving into what is the need for Bola Tinubu. Is this the end of Bola Tinubu? How can Bola Tinubu save himself? What is likely to happen to Bola Tinubu, and of what disadvantage is this to Nigeria, and if there's any advantage thereof? We'll be looking at a whole lot of issues on this episode with your show plug, Dr. Omosoladeji. First, what I can tell you is that if the U.S. agencies go ahead to release the document, Bola Tinubu is surely in trouble. Bola Tinubu will be in trouble because everything that is documented as far as the case is concerned will be released. Now, Bola Tinubu would not have been in trouble if he is a private citizen and he just has a case in court. But for a president of Nigeria, if they release the document, people will scrutinize it word for word, comma by comma. People will make meaning out of it, will make interpretation out of it. And at the end of the day, this may kind of like bring an unprecedented disgrace to the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu. Now, how did this case evolve? Some people have been saying, well, we don't need this judgment. When we need the judgment to tender as evidence in the court, the U.S. government did not provide it. Well, this case has been in the U.S. court since 2023, and that is the Biden era. You will recall that it was President Donald Trump that took over from the immediate past president, Joe Biden. And if you look at the international dynamics, the Joe Biden administration, which is an offspring of the Barack Obama administration, because Biden was the vice of Barack Obama, has always favored the APC. You recall the emergence of Buhari, the role Obama played and all that. Now, the government in the United States is that of Donald Trump, which is of the opposition party, the Republican. So the case has been in the U.S. court since 2003, which is the Biden era. And the case was filed by an activist called Aaron Greenspan. Aaron Greenspan filed the case in 2023, making 12 FOI requests. Aaron Greenspan filed the case, and when he made the 12 FOI request, which is the Freedom of Information request, he was turned down because the U.S. security agencies activated what they call Glomar response. Now, this is where it gets interesting. What is Glomar response? You see, Glomar response is a neither here nor there response. If you are involved with anything that pertains to the United States, and the United States do not want to grant you an information that will help you, then the U.S. government, for their own, whether economic reasons, political reasons, or social reasons, or maybe national security, they would activate what they call the Glomar response. The Glomar response is refusing to confirm or deny the existence of records. Now, you may want to imagine that Glomar, what is Glomar? The name Glomar evolved out of a case of a ship called the Glomar Explorer. There was a ship that it involved the United States some years ago. It's called the Glomar Explorer, and that particular ship, when information was sought as regards the interest or what the United States had to do with that ship, the United States gave a neither here nor there response. So it was after the U.S. legal stroke intelligence agencies used that response. After onward, the U.S. government have been using it, and they've tagged it the Glomar response. So in the case of Bola Tinubu, when Aaron Greenspan went to court, they activated the Glomar response. When Aaron Greenspan went to court. The CIA responded, the FBI responded, the DEA, Drug Enforcement Administration, and different security agencies, they responded, and they were all giving the Glomar response, which is that they refused to confirm or deny the existence of records. Let me give you a practical example that may help in this case. For instance, if you are doubting that, okay, this Omosoladeji that claims he has a PhD, does he really have a PhD? And you now write to my school that confirm the PhD of an Omosoladeji, and the school decide to say that, well, we cannot kind of like confirm or deny the existence of his record. That is a Glomar response. If I decide to write to your school and your school wrote me back that, well, we cannot deny or confirm the existence of your academic record, that is a Glomar response. But then Aaron Greenspan pressed further and they decided that, well, he's going to push forward. And now in 2025, the United States District Court in Colombia, under Justice Beryl Howell, decide to give a favor in favor of Aaron Greenspan. I must not fail to point out that Aaron Greenspan is an associate of David Hundeyin. Aaron Greenspan is an associate of David Hundeyin. They were kind of like pushing the case together. So for David Hundeyin to be involved, perhaps maybe one or two Nigerian politicians may be involved as well, because if you look at the funding and all of that and the political kind of interest that is attached to it. But then, what is in this for Nigeria? What is in this for Bola Tinubu? Well, for this kind of reason is why nations don't allow people with questionable character to rule in order to avoid costly compromise. Because as it is now, Bola Tinubu is vulnerable, and because he is vulnerable, then he may take decisions that may either ruin Nigeria or not be in the best interest of Nigeria. So if you look at countries around the world, the country that Bola Tinubu can be a president is the country like Nigeria or some other weak African countries. But in the West, it will be difficult because of the word costly compromise. As it is right now, Bola Tinubu, if he knows that he has some criminal record in the United States, he will be very desperate. And as he gets desperate, his decision may be the one that will protect his interest and not the interest of the country. But then there is a lifeline for Bola Tinubu in the sense that Bola Tinubu may eventually get out of this based on the personality of the US President Donald Trump. The US President Donald Trump is a businessman. He appears so in the sense that Trump is somebody that hates anything that has to do with the Democrats, but then he is a businessman, and businessmen are always willing to compromise. And that is why I don't know the kind of like political advisors that Bola Tinubu has, but the truth is that the fact is that those documents may eventually be released, but at the same time, Bola Tinubu can kind of like save himself if he decides to play game with Trump, but then it would be at the expense of Nigeria. And I'll give you an example. The Biden administration was helping Ukraine. When Trump took over from Biden, Trump is willing to help Ukraine only if Ukraine will grant the United States access to its resources. Imagine that. Trump is willing to continue to help Ukraine if Ukraine will grant Trump access to its resources. In this case now, Trump may also be willing to help Bola Tinubu if Bola Tinubu will grant US unfettered access to Nigerian markets and to Nigerian resources. And that's why I said that so long as Donald Trump does not like anything that evolves from the Democrats, then him being a businessman can be the lifeline for Bola Tinubu. Trump hates anything Democrat, but he's a businessman. So that businessman issue can be what Bola Tinubu can use to save himself. But the truth is that Nigerian sovereignty is currently subjected to two countries, and that's shameful. Nigerian sovereignty at the moment is currently subjected to two countries. It's currently the remote control of two countries, one the United States, two France. The first one, the United States, by virtue of the drug dealings and the drug case and the documents and record that is in possession of the United States. Secondly, the France, by virtue of Mr. President's apparent frequent medical tourism to France. That has made Nigeria's sovereignty, because Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the symbol of Nigeria's sovereignty. So Nigeria's sovereignty is shamefully being compromised under two different countries at the moment. And the truth is that these countries are parasitic countries. These are countries that will suck the lifeline of your resources dry, and that is why this may just be the beginning of hardship for Nigerians, because the interest of those countries will naturally bring more hardship to Nigerians, and that is why Nigerians need to brace up, because there will be more hardship to come. But what I can say is that in the midst of all of this, if Bola Ahmed Tinubu has truly been involved in narcotics truly, well, I would advise him that if the history of Nigeria is written, when they write it and they reach 2023 to 2027, whether anybody likes it or not, they will mention Bola Ahmed Tinubu as past president. So if he truly has any records, whether they release it or not, the fact is that he should not contest in 2027 if he knows that he has done any, what they call mago dealings. But if he knows that he is playing, then they can proceed to contest, because at the end of the day, for a judge to have given judgment against him, even if he decides to appeal the case, at the end of the day, he may end up being embarrassed by the U.S. Supreme Court. And one thing that we need to look at in all of this is the APC supporters. You will recall that during the issue between Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan and Senate President Godswill Akpabio, the APC supporters were saying that, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan should release evidence. You want to see the evidence. They were politicizing it. Now, you, the same APC supporter, will you be screaming now that Donald Trump and the U.S. security agency should go ahead and release the evidence? That's what I want to see from APC supporters or Bola Ahmed Tinubu sympathizers. And for some of you that will be saying that, it is no longer relevant. No, it is relevant, because according to the argument of Justice Beryl Howell, she asserts that whether anything that pertains to Bola Ahmed Tinubu's privacy is not as important as the public interest, because he is a public official. Because Bola Ahmed Tinubu stated in his argument that, they shouldn't release it for privacy's sake. But the judge ruled that no, if you are a public official, public interest in your past and your person is more important than anything you are trying to hide. And you will recall that Reno Omokri said Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a non-drug lord. He said he went to Chicago University and Chicago State University, that Bola Ahmed Tinubu graduated from that particular institution. But he also claimed that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a non-drug lord. He wants people to believe that Bola Ahmed Tinubu's certificate is genuine. Now, will he also want people to believe, as he asserted, that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is truly a non-drug lord? So a lot of issues, but shout out to the independence of the U.S. District Court for them to be able to give this landmark judgment. Whether the judgment is released or whether the documents are released or not, one thing is sure, that the U.S. court has written his name in gold, because I doubt if a Nigerian court would have given such judgment in the interest of the people. But Bola Ahmed Tinubu should tread carefully. But I can assure you that Bola Ahmed Tinubu will do everything in his power, even if it's for him to, in quote, sell Nigeria, even if it's for him to hire lobbyists, if it's for him to appeal, he will do his best to make sure that he covers his tracks for as long as possible. That's if he has anything to hide. It's been an interesting time with all this episode of Politin with Dr. Omoshola. Do want to subscribe, turn on your notification button, catch up with my past videos, and of course I have great interesting videos coming your way. Till I see you again, always remember that I love you all sincerely.